You've seen the headlines, right? It feels like every day another $1 billion gets thrown at artificial intelligence. We're talking about a tidal wave of cash, with companies betting hundreds of billions on what's next. So the big question is this a genuine gold rush, the start of something huge? Or are we just building the biggest house of cards the world has ever seen?
All right, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at the sheer, mind-boggling scale of this spending spree. Then, we're going to follow the money, see where it's actually going. After that, we'll zoom out to see the global race that's pouring gasoline on this fire. And finally, we'll tackle that massive question. Is this whole thing for real, or is it about to come crashing down?
Okay, so the first thing you really have to get is that AI isn't just some cool science project anymore. It's not in the lab. It's out in the wild. It's exploding into the commercial world. And that shift is what's kicking off this absolutely historic spending frenzy.
Let's just start with a number that's, well, it's almost hard to wrap your head around. $400 billion. That's the rumored price tag for just one project, OpenAI's Stargate supercomputer. I mean, think about it. Just a couple of years ago, $100 billion was a massive fund for an entire venture capital firm. Now, it's the budget for a single project at one company. That change in scale is everything.
And you know, this isn't just a Silicon Valley thing. Not at all. You look halfway across the world, and you've got the Chinese tech giant Alibaba pledging over $50 billion for its own AI build-out. So it's pretty clear, right? This isn't just some local trend. This is a global arms race for computing power.
The spending is getting so intense that even the old-school established giants are having to stretch themselves thin. I mean, Oracle, a pillar of the tech world, just went out and raised $15 billion in debt. Why? Partly to build the massive data centers that clients like OpenAI need. Just let that sink in. The demand is so high, it's forcing these cash-rich, stable companies to take on billions in new debt just to try and keep pace.
So why is this all happening now? Well, this quote from investor Steve Zhang nails it. He says, "We're just moving from an experimental phase into a commercial application phase." And that's the key. This money isn't just being thrown into a black hole. It's being pulled by real demand. We're talking AI tools that creators are using on TikTok and YouTube right now, and businesses are using for everything from customer service call centers to writing reports. The demand is officially here.
Okay, so if we stick with this idea of a modern-day gold rush, it's super important to realize where the first wave of money is going. It's not all going towards finding the gold itself, you know, that one killer AI app. Nope. The biggest bets right now are on the picks and shovels, the basic, fundamental infrastructure you need before you can even start digging.
So what does that actually mean, picks and shovels? What are they buying with all this cash? Well, it's basically a 4-layer tech stack. It all starts with the GPUs, those super specialized chips from companies like NVIDIA that are the brains of the operation. Then you need a place to put them, which means massive data centers. And those data centers, well, they need a truly staggering amount of energy to run. And finally, you've got the middleware, which is the software glue that makes all of these pieces work together. And what's really interesting is that this spending spree is creating these totally new roles in the tech world. You have a company like Oracle basically becoming an infrastructure middle person. Think of them as the general contractor for this new digital frontier. They're handling the tough stuff, finding land, securing power for the AI pioneers like OpenAI. And get this, it's a project that Microsoft itself reportedly passed on because it was just too big and too complex.
But look, this isn't just companies trying to one-up each other. The sheer scale of these investments is turning this into something way bigger. We're talking about a full-blown international race for AI supremacy.
And you can really see the geopolitical chessboard taking shape when you look at the different strategies across the globe. In the US, you have the pioneers, OpenAI, Microsoft, pushing the absolute bleeding edge. Over in China, it's a national mission. They have a whole AI plus policy with the goal of getting AI into nearly every device. And then you've got Europe and India, where major players are investing like crazy to build their own local ecosystems because they're determined not to get left behind and become dependent on someone else's tech.
Okay, this all sounds amazing, right? Like we're watching the birth of a new industrial revolution. But whenever you see this much money moving this fast, you have to stop and ask the tough question. Is the foundation here solid? Is this all sustainable? Or is the ground starting to feel a little shaky?
And that brings us to the other side of this trillion-dollar bet. Because for every optimist, there's a growing chorus of skeptics who look at all this spending and see one thing: a massive, dangerous bubble.
This quote from Kim Forrest at Boca Capital Partners really sums up the skeptics' case perfectly. She says it's a very, very big bubble because while they've solved a big problem, people are conflating that it's more than that this is a thinking machine, and it is not. That's the core fear, that the market is fundamentally misunderstanding what this technology is and that it's making a potentially catastrophic miscalculation on its value.
So this skepticism really boils down to some hard-hitting questions that don't have easy answers, like what problem is AI actually solving for businesses, and is the solution worth the insane cost? Is a lot of this money just circular? Venture capital money flowing from OpenAI to NVIDIA to Oracle and back again without actually creating any new value outside of that little loop? And what about the real world? Are we just going to ignore the physical limits of our power grids? And maybe the biggest question of all, who is ultimately going to pay for all of this?
So there you have it. The two opposing camps. It's the bulls versus the bears. The bulls, the optimists, they see real commercial products, real money being made, and real productivity gains happening right now. But the bears, the skeptics, they look at the same picture and see a fuzzy business case, a house of cards built on pure hype, and a really worrying circular flow of cash.
So which is it? A genuine revolution or a dangerous bubble? Well, what if the answer is kind of both? What if we need to completely reframe the way we're looking at this? This is where we might have to make a mental shift. Maybe this isn't just about quarterly profits and business models. Maybe this is a global race for technological dominance. And if you look at it that way, then the absolutely insane level of spending, well, it isn't a bug, it's a feature. It's the price you have to pay just to have a seat at the table.
And there's a term for this idea, sovereign AI. It's this belief that for any nation to control its own destiny in the 21st century, it simply cannot afford to be dependent on another country for its core AI technology. And when you think about it like that, AI development stops being just a business venture and becomes a matter of national security and economic survival.
What all this means is that we are sailing in completely uncharted waters. This global race is going to create winners and losers on a scale we have probably never seen before. The opportunity for a massive leap forward for humanity is real, but so is the risk of a truly spectacular financial meltdown.
So, in the end, we're left with the classic question you have to ask in any gold rush. With hundreds of billions, maybe trillions of dollars being spent to dig for this digital gold, you've got to wonder, who are the smart ones selling the picks and shovels to everybody else, and who is just digging a deeper and deeper hole, hoping to strike it rich on what might turn out to be nothing more than fool's gold?